Welcome. It's June 2017 and the beginning of winter here in Australia. So today I wanted to talk about why there is such a reconnection with the divine feminine, and so I'll be focusing today upon a topic of great discussion amongst my many female friends especially. What does it mean to be a sexually empowered woman? And how do we know if we are empowered? And I can tell you from much of my experience and from what I've studied and witnessed in the last few years, to be a sexually empowered woman, it's really about acknowledging for ourselves where it is in our lives that we give our power away. And first of all, we need to know what our power is. What does that mean? Because in context, we often think of power as force, as an energy of aggression, maybe even, if we think in terms of the patriarchal system of power. And yet, in context for women throughout the ages, it's about acknowledging where we've been disempowered and what that has meant in terms of our development as women, especially in relationship, and of course more pertinent to our intimate relationships. How are we intimate with a lover or a partner? So I'd like to discuss then and share with you what it is to be a sexually empowered woman. Is really being able to look at oneself. So, for example, check back in on what it was like growing up. And for you as a girl, what did you witness around your family and friends? Who did you feel more comfortable around, and what made you feel anxious? So if you were someone like me who grew up with a very strong mother and grandmother, women who were quite empowered in their capacity to earn income, so they were quite successful in their own right, busy women, productive women, and very resourceful. And in one aspect that actually frightened me as a little girl growing up, because I saw women as having to be tough and they're the ones that get things done. And then on the flip side, they would drop into this place of submissiveness in their relationships. So for me, I then witnessed the less active achievers, the men in my family. They were more nurturing to a certain extent. They were the ones that would get away with being playful. And so I grew up with a lot of the old beliefs and analogies around men being boys, men having toys, men being playful, men not being grown up. And of course, this gave me mixed messages around what it means to be a woman. Means to be always grown up, always being in control, always having to be the one to get things done, and yet at the same time then being submissive and passive in relationship. So having looked at this, studied this, and then expanded upon this in my own sessions with other people, not just couples by the way, but women mainly as well, where we've discussed what it means to be taught and given this model of having to be one thing and yet having witnessed it expressed in another way, and that other way being the other thing of dismissing our sexuality and our capacity to be active participants in a relationship. So how do those dynamics then play out in a sexual relationship? For me personally, I learned that through my own marriage and my own sexual relationships and my own sexuality in exploration. And I consider myself to be an average person in that respect to begin with, that many people that see me now talk about that, how they would then express themselves through the adventures of sexual exploration. which is quite common. However, what then comes up during their evolution, as in mine, is that there was that little part, the good girl inside, that would be really cautious around being very sexual in an intimate relationship. There would be part of me that could really explore my independence and strength and attract men, and yet once I was in that space of being quite strong in that relationship or union, was that I would then retreat in that sexual experience. So in the bedroom it would be a case of becoming more submissive and having a less, not so much control, but awareness around what it is that pleases me. I was more aware of how I could please my partner, and in that, what I didn't realise then was that I was actually giving away my power. So in context again, to give away our power is to not really know what it means to be powerful. And that's where I'd like to take a step back and recognise where women haven't been able to hear this from their mothers or grandmothers, what it means to be an empowered sexual woman versus what it means to be a woman who is finding power through manipulation or through survival or an aspect of the feminine that was actually having to re-emerge by other means and not a means that was authentic to themselves. So in reclaiming that for myself and learning more about it during my journey, what I realised through my own practice and what I'm talking to more women about is that we need to relearn what it is to be a very sexually oriented and active woman in a way that hasn't been shamed or disowned. And that's where, in answering the questions when women ask me, how can I be more sexual, how can I be more sexually empowered, how can I please my partner in the bedroom, it's really important to encourage them to look at how they're pleasing themselves. What does pleasure mean? Where does pleasure sit in the body? Because pleasure does sit in the body in all parts once we're activated. So, and I'll talk about Kundalini in another video, but in this part, what we need to do is actively reconnect with our own sexual energy, and which is inherently within our sacral region. The sacral chakras are just below the belly button, and we need to bring it up to our heart center and feel that with love for ourselves, with love for feeling like a sexual woman, and really owning that. And if there's any essence whatsoever that pops up that says, I feel uncomfortable with this, then that's the shadow side of our being and our sexuality, which says, why are you feeling a little bit uncomfortable here? What is it that hasn't been addressed? Has it been repressed by our mothers? Or collectively, I know it has been to a certain degree by women ourselves. So when that comes up a little bit, just check in. Am I opening up more fully and getting that sense of pleasure for myself? Am I then able to reciprocate and love this part of myself? And then what I would like to share with you is that this is the holy grail in being able to then more openly and comfortably call in that lover, that partner who partners with us in a sexual union. And that's where it starts to build upon the tantric model, what it means to embody our sexuality and feel so comfortable in that place that we call in somebody who is also comfortable in themselves. So when they do join us and when we openly invite them in and give them permission to come into our space, then as we open up to become more sexual and have an intimate experience, what we can witness for ourselves is that we're calling them in, we're inviting them in, and we're meeting them there equally. We're not giving ourselves away, we're not giving away our energy or our power. We can retain that, but we can meet them there with that same empowerment. And that's the tantric union, that's the capacity to come in together equally and feel euphoric in one's own expansion and owning it completely without guilt or shame. So that's just an overview really, but just something I want to leave with you today at the beginning of winter here in Australia as well. And if you have any questions, please give me a call and I'll speak to you more then. Thank you.